Reece, first of all, huge congratulations. You've decided to commit your future to this fantastic football club of ours. What does it mean to you, having put pen to paper on this new deal?
It means everything to me. This club is all I've known. I grew up a Chelsea fan, and my dream was to always play for the club, and I'm over the moon to extend.
As captain, you've already lifted a European trophy, led the team to the World Championship. What is it that makes you feel that this is the right time to cement your future here?
No, I mean the love I have for the club. I come up through the ranks here at Chelsea, and my only dream was in blue. Playing at Stamford Bridge. When I heard about the opportunity to extend, it wasn't really a question of thinking twice.
As you mentioned, you've been here since I think you were an under-8. Could you have imagined back then how this journey of yours would have panned out?
No, to be honest, going back that long, I never imagined it to go this way. Just playing once at Stamford Bridge probably would have been enough for me. To go on to what I've achieved, so far in my career has been a dream.
Just how important a decision is it, Reece, at this stage of your career?
No, I mean it's a vital time in my career. I'm getting closer to my peak. I wanted my peak years to be, at Chelsea. And I think, we have everything it takes to win, and hopefully the coming years we win big trophies.
Scary prospect when you say that you're not even at your peak yet. How much better do you think you can be?
How much is hard to say, but there's definitely still room for improvement, and I still think I can, get better.
As you sign the contract today, who are the first people and the most important people you think of?
The people that have helped me get to where I am, my family, my mum, my dad, my brother, my sister, my friends around me. They've all helped, a massive part in, getting to where I am today.
I know how proud you are, Reece, to be club captain. Could you put it into words how emotional you felt when you were given that opportunity and that responsibility?
It's something I always had my eyes on. It was a dream that I had from a little boy, to be captain of Chelsea one day, and it probably came sooner than I expected, because I was, a really young captain when I first got the role. I'm really proud. My family are proud, and I'm growing and learning every day.
It's a really interesting point because, like you say, you were young when you got the captaincy. How much do you feel you've grown into the role?
Yeah, I think I've grown a lot. When I first got the role, I had a lot of interruptions through injury and stuff, so I found it, super difficult at the start. But as I, got back on the pitch and started finding rhythm again, I think it's helped a lot, and hopefully that's, been evident.
Who would you say were the big characters, personalities, leaders that you learned from in those early days?
I think one that springs to mind would be John Terry. I wasn't around him, too much. When he was here, I was in the academy, but he's, Chelsea through and through. And then more so Aspie as well. When I broke into the first team, he was the captain here, and we played the same position, and he also, played a part. And I've tried to learn little bits from, other experienced players that also wasn't captain, like Thiago.
Really interesting point. You mentioned sort of three very different players, three different personalities. Do you find you're almost taking elements from their game, from their personality to sort of help you evolve personally?
Yeah, I think, every year the game changes. And yeah, I try to, take little snippets from everyone and change parts of it and, mould it around me. I'm still young, and I try and, learn as much as I can from the more experienced players.
You are still young, and as we mentioned, obviously we've watched your journey throughout this incredible academy of ours. How important has their role been in your development?
Yeah, I think, coming through at Chelsea, you're kind of drilled into winning at such a young age. Everything is about winning, whether it's games or tournaments. It's kind of in our blood, in our DNA to win. And when we don't win, there's disappointment and upset.
It's a really interesting point when you talk about the DNA, because how important is that winning mentality, as you said, that was ingrained in you from such a young age?
Yeah, I think it comes, from the first team, and it trickles down into the academy. It's difficult for an academy to have a winning mentality if the first team are not winning. But Chelsea were, winning, major trophies, and yeah, that helped massively.
And you've won so many major trophies already at this stage of your career. We've mentioned the Champions League, the Conference League, the Club World Cup. How do those moments, those victories, those trophies help to shape you and motivate you moving forward?
Yeah, I think I've won a fair few major trophies, and they were, great experiences, great memories, and I hope to make, many more.
You touched on the fact, REECE, that it's not been all plain sailing. You've had to deal with setbacks, with injuries. How have those experiences helped to shape you, and how important has it been from a mentality perspective as well?
Yeah, it was super difficult. I probably had, 2 or 3 year period with, lots of disappointment, lots of setbacks, and there was probably a lot of people that doubted me at the time, and questioned whether I would come back to, the level that he, once was. But I always knew and believed that I would. I just needed time, and now I'm happy. I'm back playing now on a regular basis and, performing to a high level.
We have a head coach that's come in who speaks so highly of you as a player and a person. How much of an impact has he had since he has come to the club?
Yeah, he's, firstly an amazing person and an amazing manager. The short spell we've had together so far has been great. It's been super intense. We've played pretty much every couple of days, so there hasn't been too much training. But no, I like the way he works and his staff, and yeah, I hope to continue building with him and the rest of the team, and hopefully we can win some trophies together.
With that in mind then, REECE, what would you say excites you about the future here at Chelsea?
The winning. There's still trophies that we need to win. The Champions League, winning that again, the Premier League, domestic cups. I believe I can achieve all of this here.
And finally, REECE, you've got such a phenomenal bond with the Chelsea supporters. What would your message be to them when they hear this great news that you've now signed a new contract at the club?
My message to them would, be I'm over the moon to stay, to extend, and thanks for all your support. You stuck with me when I had setback after setback for a number of years, and hopefully I can repay you.
Well, on behalf of all of us, REECE, congratulations once again and good luck.
Thank you very much.